All right, welcome back everybody to Aldholn. Hopefully this one should go a little bit smoother. We've removed a couple of modules, found a couple of extra modules to hopefully speed things on. I still need to go and get that list of all of the Foundry modules that we are utilizing, but there is probably a couple that you will notice through the use of this second session, and hopefully that should streamline things a little bit better. I've tried to see if I can get stuff rolling a little bit better in the background, and hopefully that will kind of not only speed up combat just a little bit, but also make certain information a little bit easier to access. Of course, it's still very much a work in progress, but we'll just kind of have to deal with that.
Anyway, session 2. Woo!
Woo!
Let's go.
Also, I forgot Coco is still gone here.
I forgot.
Oh my god!
Yeah, you know what? Screw it. We'll leave him. I totally didn't even see him when I was prepping last night.
That's great. That is just great.
Anyway, so starting off with everything regardless in the story, would anybody here like to provide a brief recap?
I will try. Question mark.
I'm
Not too
eating, so
sure.
the show is yours.
Fine by me. Walf, unless you have an objection.
No, I'm also eating my English muffin.
Okay. Well, bon appetit to you too.
Girl dinner.
Girl.
It's 9 a.m.
So last session was 2 weeks ago. We joined as a team in what seemed to be an adventurers guild in the city of
This was a test all along.
in Dalmer, was it? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we did meet in Dalmer. It was Sigurdhur, an ex-convict who got caught in a bar fight and put in prison for more or less accidentally harming someone. Wylle Welleria, who is quite an experienced or weathered adventurer already, and Mizu Shui, who is a beginner adventurer but came under recommendations of people that were quite important and highly regarded. The mission consisted in trying to find, if I remember correctly, a group of merchants who had gone missing and bring back their whatever we could find. Hopefully the people, and less hopefully what they were merchandising. We went there, found a pack of gnolls which we dispatched, and sadly found the remaining of the merchant's caravan, basically traces of corpses and messed up merchandise. From that point on, we came back to town, I believe. Near where we found the merchant's caravan, we went to town, and I believe we more or less stopped there to give a report.
All
I was
right.
a bit
Yeah.
confused.
Yep. That is indeed most of it. So for this session, check off that you have inspiration. You can use that to re-roll anything within this session.
Woo!
Hell yeah.
Yeah, baby.
So to just fill in the very last bits of that prior session, you had indeed arrived in the nearby town of Barmwich, which is close to Belmare's southern border, and that after arriving in town, you did have a brief moment to kind of collect yourselves in the town square and, for Sigurdhur, wash off the vast amounts of blood that he was covered in. And that immediately following that, you were all witness to an explosion that took place in one of the second-story lofts right on the main street, finding two men that seemingly landed on their feet out of the explosion and made mention to each other in passing about Adventurers Guild paperwork. Upon turning around, Mizu was actually the first one to notice all of it and the first one to see both of those individuals. So as we pull back into the session, again, you are now all in the town of Barmwich, a small town on Belmer's southern border, again. And these two men are now standing in front of you, and thanks to Lee's hard work, I can actually go and show both of these two. Let me just go and load this up. Hopefully this works. So the first one that we will be showing there was a decently tall man of some form of elven descent with a bright green shirt and kind of slicked back brown hair, who I am showing right now. Let me know if this shows up.
Oh.
We see a lot of things, but we don't see that.
We see the GM screen.
Okay, close that out, sorry. I'm still trying to kind of figure out how to... Basically, one of the modules that I ended up downloading was Monk's Enhanced Journal. Definitely for any GMs or anybody that have journal-heavy D&D games, definitely check that out. Pretty good. A little bit confusing, but we're working with that. Yeah. Close that out.
Yeah.
Well,
I just wanted you to see what we saw.
Anyway, let me see if this works any better.
Yes.
This?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just bears now.
Yeah. So this also does bring up another point for any viewers watching the recordings. A majority of characters and NPCs in this campaign are not necessarily new. This is actually the third time that this setting has been rebooted. There was originally a somewhat private campaign that was being run back, I believe, like 2+ years ago. And then we had rebooted the setting as a kind of backdrop for the Strixhaven campaign set, which we ran with kind of an RP group, kind of larger scale. And then now we are fully restarting the campaign basically as its own fresh reboot. And I did state that a lot of the characters might be recognizable to certain players, or if anybody from the old Asteria Strixhaven group is watching these videos, but that there is much and more that will not be recognized. So don't be surprised if a lot of the players have either pre-existing knowledge of aspects of the characters, but they most certainly do not know the characters' current stories. So hopefully that will still kind of keep a bit of mystery to the sessions. So of course, Lee, here's your favorite, your boy. So the man in front of you is dressed in kind of peculiar garb for most adventurers out this way, and you can see that as he places his kind of thumb on the bottom of his chin and his pointer finger over the top of his chin, he appears to be in deep contemplation for a moment before you can see his eyes dart to the side, and he seems to notice Mizu looking at him specifically, and he just exclaims, "Ah!" And then, after noticing you, he goes and turns to his other compatriot, who I am also going to be showing now, who is a decently built man, at the very least half a head taller than his friend over here, decked out in what appears to be some kind of white ceramic mask, a long teal scarf, and this very strange white, almost ceramic-looking armor that decks out the lower portion of his body. The mask itself is somewhat strange. It covers almost the entirety of his face, and it's only adorned with 6 semi-glowing blue eyes. And as the two of them kind of turn around to face you, you can see the brown-haired man kind of jab his friend in the side with the elbow, saying, "See, I told you they would be right on time." And you can just see his masked friend just turn to him simply, "So it would seem." And the brown-haired man then goes and begins dusting himself off. You can see that while both of them did land on their feet, they are covered with small bits of debris and ash and a little bit of smoke still rising off of them. But they do seem more or less not quite so worse for wear. And as he finally finishes dusting himself off, the brown-haired man steps forward. Greetings, everyone. I take it you are the Adventurers Guild team that we are here to meet.
Yes, sir.
Very well. I can't help but seem to believe that you are alone. Not seeing the caravan with you, I'm assuming.
Well, it's just kind of like looks at the other two and just stares for a moment and pulls out the little wrapped item he got from all the rings he picked up earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, immediately you can see his expression kind of dour and sober up. Well, I suppose it was bound to happen sometime later. We got lucky with many of the prior shipments. Still a shame, good people. And he goes and actually reaches out his hand to kind of take the items.
Yeah, Wyle's not gonna. I'm not gonna stop him or anything.
Well, yeah, he waits for you to go and place the parcel in his hand, and kind of as soon as you do, he kind of pulls it closer and actually kind of unwraps part of it, taking a look at the items. And you can see he kind of takes a look at each one of them specifically, and he does begin saying something under his breath. So I would say everybody that wants to hear what he is saying, roll an active perception check.
Sir.
Is it working? Yes, it is.
Oh, two?
Boy, what a wonderful start to the game.
But Siggy's doing much better this time.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
And is Mizu trying to listen, or is it not working?
Oh,
There it goes.
19.
Of course Mizu hears it, of course.
there's
She's
a
just
reason.
entranced by this man. Anyway, both Sigurdhur and Mizu, you can hear it pretty clearly. While you're not necessarily distracted, but it is a little bit hard to kind of be going through this again. I mean, you did recently just lose your team, and this is probably one of the first times that you've dealt with large-scale loss. You've had a quest objective person die in a mission before. It was usually due to freak accidents like weather or other geography that just happened to be unlucky for them. So you unfortunately don't catch most of this. But Mizu and Sigurdhur, both of you can hear him under his breath kind of go through each of the items one by one. You can hear him say, yes, McKinnon's dog tags, Victoria's ring, sent it to her husband, Drake's magnifying glass. Her protege won't be happy, but it is how it is. It's the price you pay for ambition.
It is how it is.
No.
Hugmug's tooth. How did they get that out? I'm sure his chief will probably try to celebrate him more as a fighter than a researcher. Bloody idiot. And Aladviel's journal, I'm sure that will go directly to his bloody Triad mistress.
No.
Alright. Yes, that appears to be the personal effects of all 5 individuals. We'll send a team back at some point to go and make some form of burial for them, I'm sure. In the meantime, we'll handle getting these personal effects back to the next of kin, as it were. Or at the very least, for the paladin, his order. And from there, I suppose, only thing left is to make the crossing to Weave, if that is still aligning with your objectives.
So far, no change in plans. We should also have the artifact. And he just turns to Mizu. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, he kind of, as soon as you mention the artifact, he does perk up a little bit. You can see one eyebrow kind of go up a little bit, like, oh. And he does turn to all of you.
Mizu fumbles a little bit as she reaches into her bag and pulls out the artifact that Coco so elegantly stole from Wylle earlier.
Yeah, you can see Coco kind of pop his head out and kind of just take a look at the surroundings. In fact, I believe he's been situated on your head, hasn't he?
Yeah.
From the little interim comic that we had.
Yes.
So, as soon as you kind of pop that out, the man does go and kind of extend his hand out and kind of almost stopping himself halfway, say, yes, my apologies, letting business get a hold of me like that. Very unprofessional. I am Varys Del Rossi, a fellow adventurer and one of the, like to consider myself one of the higher-ranking adventurers. And my silent masked friend over here, and he kind of turns to his friend and gives a little bit of a marked scowl and a little bit of an eyebrow twitch, is Silas Bastone, another adventurer. We were dispatched here both to meet you and to also inspect the individual that will be handling the border crossing. And I was given a very brief description of you, and he points to you, Wylle. Mr. Welleria, your history with the guild has been well documented. Of course, I know all about you. However, I believe the other 2 of you are more recent additions to the guild. I've not heard of you. Might I ask a bit more about yourself? And he does turn to you, Mizu.
Well, just laughs. Yeah, they're considering I met them this morning. Yeah, they're very, very new.
Yesterday morning.
Yes, yesterday. Keep forgetting there was a day in between.
Oh shit. Attention on Mizu. Oh shit.
Yeah.
That isn't from Wylle.
I don't know why.
Mizu like gets all nervous and initially doesn't respond. She just flinches and like holds the relic a little closer, and then she like tries to open her mouth, but she looks like she's like a fish above water. Like she's gawking. And
yeah, you feel Coco give you a little kind of pat on top of the head.
with the little feetsies.
Yeah, little tiny otter slap.
And then she cleared her throat and goes, I'm Mizu. I'm from Luyon. Yeah. She's surprisingly flustered for some reason.
Why kind of like has his hands in front of him, like doing the circle motion of yes, and
pleasure.
He doesn't say it out loud, but it's kind of insinuated.
Yeah. And it's a pleasure to meet you. She looks at Wylle and raises her eyebrow.
Wow, you suck at this.
Good enough.
Yeah, I was gonna say anybody that wants to roll a perception check on. Actually, no. This will be passive perception.
Oh.
Let me.
Roll for
hold on.
Constitution so you don't die from cringe.
Yeah, of course. Hold on, I have to roll his stealth for this.
Huh?
Yeah, unfortunately, nobody catches this.
Damn.
But he does. It's very minor. It's more something that something he says to himself that nobody really catches.
Oh, okay. I thought it was him trying to not show that he was cringing.
Yeah, no. And in response, you can see his masked friend over there, kind of go and jab him in the side, and he's like, "Hey." Anyway, pleasure to meet you. And he gives you a kind of slight bow, a little bit, with a hand over his chest. And then he turns to Sigurdhur, and you, my friend, are very much a new addition, I would assume.
I stand out a bit, don't I?
A little.
I'm Sigurdhur, Gilderesson. Nice to meet you.
I expect big things from you, my friend.
The only thing that's big.
It's not on.
Shut up!
She beats me to it.
Regardless, following the introduction, he does once again kind of reach out his hand to Mizu. If I might see the artifact for just a brief moment.
She hands it over without complaint.
Yeah, he takes it and he kind of starts flipping it around, kind of spinning it, inspecting all of the other sides of it, and eventually goes and pulls into his bag and pulls out a small crystal, probably about the size of like a die or a dice, and goes and kind of holds it in the center of where the artifact's ring is, and you can see it kind of very, very slightly kind of make a little bit of a pulse in the air, almost as if it was like a ripple of water coming out in the middle of the air. And taking a look at that, he just kind of nods to himself, puts the crystal away, and then hands it back to you, Mizu. All right, well, it does appear that this is indeed the genuine artifact. So I will hand this off to you for safekeeping. And from there, we can either proceed to the border crossing tonight, if you would wish. That is when we are expecting the border should hopefully be opening. We're still not entirely sure. Or if you would like, we could possibly use an extra hand in our own mission. You see, the two of us were here to go and meet a guild representative by the name of Roderick Truegust. He's an alchemist working for the guild. He was attempting to try and make the border crossing more predictable, safer, make sure that we can actually ensure that everybody is going to get through in one piece instead of becoming scattered like we have with some of the prior expeditions. However, several days ago, in fact, probably about a day or so after the caravan vanished, he vanished as well. And, of course, him being a prominent alchemist here in Barmwich, we naturally went to go investigate his lodging, which, of course, you can see up there, and he gestures to the gigantic hole that's in the second-story building.
At least he
And
doesn't have
it's-
to worry about ventilation, right?
I was gonna say, was that in game or above board?
Oh shit! Would Mizu say that? Good question.
Hmm.
Maybe under her breath, like very quietly.
Okay, can you roll a stealth check?
Oh shit! Oh no! I shouldn't have said that.
And also,
Oh,
I'm
shit.
going to try rolling this. Let me know if you see this show up in the chat log.
All right. Wait, what do I see in the chat log?
Okay, yeah, no, it did not. It did not load in.
Oh,
okay,
okay.
good.
Damn, I shouldn't have said that.
Roll.
Oh,
Come on.
God.
I'm gonna see if I heard it.
Oh god.
A
I
17.
did it. It's good.
All right, yeah, no, you do successfully sneak that in, and yeah, he does not notice.
The dice are in your favor this morning, Lee.
They have
Yeah.
been since session 1.
Fair. Yeah, fair.
Except that one religion check, Jesus.
Yeah, hold on, I'm just trying to double check my things because yeah, it's saying that the virtual tabletop's not found, but I've got it loaded up specifically.
No, wait, Blade, above board, the room / floors that just exploded, which Varys and Silas just came out of, it was his office?
You can kind of put that together. Well, you can put it together that was probably owned by whoever this Roderick Truegust is.
Mm-hmm.
The hole itself is actually pretty sizable. Like, I want to say that the wall itself is probably a good, 50-80 feet in length, and it's just the entire wall has just been completely blown out in this gigantic, circular hole that is just completely pushing straight out.
Which begs the question that Sigurdhur is going to ask. What's an alchemist?
How to best put this? An alchemist is somewhat like an apothecary, although much more scientifically inclined. Usually they are involved in the creation of healing potions or other forms of scientific goods and services. In this case, Roderick was attempting to see if he would be able to utilize alchemical ingredients to be able to, again, make the border crossing more tenable. But unfortunately, he was also known for being somewhat a loner and being somewhat unpredictable at times. But he was certainly never dangerous. Now that we've had this little incident, and he kind of looks back up at the gigantic hole in the building, I'm afraid we will have to probably confirm any suspicions that we have before we move on, which is why I was requesting if you would be willing to assist us in this matter, or if this is something that you would prefer to simply rest up from your own prior harrowing experience, it would seem.
Yeah, being absolutely exhausted after the last encounter they've had, well, I'm just gonna speak up and go, well, as much as I'd love to immediately say yes and talk about the compensation later, apart from just shooting arrows, I don't think I would be able to do much in a fight in case anything happens. I'm pretty much just a pair of eyes at this point.
Well, luckily that's pretty much all we're needing, is just more eyes to investigate what actually happened. Roderick himself is still a comrade of the guild. He's not expected to be violent. In fact, he's always been some form of pacifist, so I doubt that there will be anything severely needed.
Mizu turns to Sigurdhur and asks, "How are you holding up? Would you be able to do this?"
Let me check.
Yeah, and in this case, Varys does actually turn to you as well and just state, we could possibly also use your brawn in removing some of the rubble in case there's been any danger to any of the other occupants.
So, for some reason, health-wise, Sigurdhur is doing quite fine. Is it because he's got healed?
Yeah, at the end of
you-
session 1 you got healed.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got healed and there was a short rest, and I believe that you recovered
just-
most of your health with your hit die.
Yeah.
True, we did that. I remember now. So physically speaking, Sigurdhur is fine. He is still capable of fighting. The problem is that in Varys' explanation of what an alchemist is, he used a lot of other words that are
Big
very foreign
words,
to
yeah.
Sigurdhur. So at the moment, Sigurdhur is still not perfectly sure he understands what's the person and what's their job. Now, when it comes to like protection duty, protection job, or just investigating stuff, he knows that. He understands this much. He's just feeling a bit tired, but if it's what the team wants to do, he's more than willing to do that.
But does the confusion show on Sigurdur's face?
He's trying not to let it show, so he's going to like nod through Varys' explanation, like, yes, I understand, but he doesn't understand.
I would say in this
I-
case, roll a deception check, and Mizu, you can roll an insight check.
Thank you.
Actually, not too bad.
Whoa.
Hmm.
You go,
can't
Mizu.
beat
I
that.
believe in you.
Oh shit!
Oh no.
With the +5.
You called
Yeah, unfortunately, you still believe him.
God damn. She
So
shouldn't
yeah,
have.
it appears that he's actually taking this in pretty well.
So it appears.
So it appears. We'll talk about this later.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty much you can tell that he's not expecting anything big in terms of what's going on. He's basically just asking like, hey, would you be willing to help us find out what was going on with the guy that we were supposed to meet before we head out? Or would you prefer to just rest up until the night?
I can do it, but I don't think my friends can. Sorry, wrong voice. I can do it. I don't think my partners can.
I mean, Mizu didn't get hurt. So Mizu just looks at herself and shrugs, like,
Yeah,
I'm
why
I'm
was
fine.
the only exhausted one?
Weakling.
Hey, I couldn't let you die, buddy. Like,
Yeah. Says the person that was completely reliant on their healing because they dropped to 3 out of 30 HP.
Yeah.
That's just their dynamic at this point.
Yeah. Anyway, so he kind of keeps looking between like all three of you as if kind of waiting for an answer, and just kind of eventually chimes in. So we can count on you, I assume?
More on these two.
Why not? I mean, yes. Yes.
All right, very well. Okay, so all right, in this case, he kind of starts going through the bundle of personal effects that you had given him earlier, Wylle. He continues going through the personal effects of the individuals that you had recovered, and then kind of you can tell that he's kind of flip-flopping between something in his head. He kind of looks up a little bit and kind of looks off into the distance, kind of contemplating something for a second. Best, and he turns to his friend. It would be best in this instance, I'll go and handle this. And he kind of shakes the parcel of personal effects, and you can handle the investigation. We'll meet back up at sundown at the usual place, all right? And his masked friend just kind of nods, and he's just got his arms crossed. And then Varys turns back to the rest of you. All right, I'll go handing off the personal effects here, make sure that these reach the next of kin. And then I'm sure that will also, I'm sure your contracts have already been updated, and so that would be your secondary objective completed, so that will be marked on your pay, of course. And we'll meet back up probably well, it's probably going to be sometime late at night. We're not expecting the border crossing to take more than an hour, so hopefully it should not interfere too much with sleep. You'll at the very least have some amount of time to get some rest. Hopefully the investigation itself won't take too long. And you can kind of see him, he kind of looks up at the sky, and it is kind of mid-afternoon, as you did get there kind of as the sun was starting to set.
Mm-hmm.
And from the sounds of it, it sounds like he's not expecting this to take much more than maybe like an hour or something.
Well,
So...
Oh.
Go ahead.
I was just making a snide comment.
Do it.
Yeah,
Do it.
No, and I'm shy.
Do it.
I'm shy.
Do it.
I'm
loser.
shy. Yeah, but bruh.
Sleeping.
Anyway, so he does eventually turn to everybody. So I assume we'll break here. Silas here should be able to more than go through the investigation with you. It should be fairly simple to find out what happened. And then we will handle the border crossing later tonight then.
Fine by me.
I'll see you then.
Yes.
All
Wow,
right,
you
well-
really
well,
suck at
that's-
social interactions.
All right, well met. I suppose we will see the rest of you at the border crossing. Very nice meeting all of you. Hopefully we'll work again in the future, even after the crossing.
I'll
Yeah,
honestly
you
not
hope
be
so.
surprised if we do.
Yeah, and he just kind of gives another slight bow and begins kind of walking off towards the center of town with the parcel very prevalently in hand. You can tell that he is actually treating it with a fairly significant amount of care regarding what it effectively is. And as he kind of walks off, you can see the masked man turn to the rest of you, and then you can actually see him kind of flip-flopping between something in his head, and he kind of just, you can see him kind of let out a little bit of a defeated sigh at some point, and eventually you can go and see that he goes and starts reaching up to his mask, and he actually takes it off, and you see this.
Oh.
It is-
Hello.
Of course, there's only so much that's really different about him, but the strangest thing that you can see is that his skin is a very kind of pale coloration, even kind of near kind of the same tone that Wylle has, but his eyes are what particularly seem strange. Is there these glowing, almost bright blue eyes that definitely, in fact, actually, I would say in this case, what would this be? This would be Arcana, I suppose, if anybody wants to roll that.
I feel like Mizu's the only one that would actually try.
I think so. Come on, girl.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
Taking even just one look at him, you can tell that there is something magically off about this man. His hair does seem to have a kind of slight metallic shine to it, which kind of reads similar to how Asimar are described, which are individuals that have either celestial or deific influence, but he appears to be lacking other features. I mean, usually Asimar are much more prominent in terms of like their features. A lot of times they have like wings, or in more exotic cases, features of animals that are associated with those gods, but those seem to be missing. And while you can't pin down exactly what's going on with him, you do understand that there is some form of magical influence that is naturally about this man. He doesn't you can't necessarily tell if he is a spellcaster or not, but there is definitely something innately magical about him.
Naruhodo.
And he kind of just places the mask at his belt line, and it seems to just attach to the rest of the ceramics without any kind of hook or anything. And he just kind of lets out that somewhat defeated sigh. All right, I suppose he's saddled the lot of you with our burden, so in this case, I suppose we should proceed. Again, I am Silas Bastone, Ranger of the Guild, and I suppose before we go and make full introductions, we should also go and show... Well, it would be best to not show this in public. And he kind of starts turning towards the building with the gigantic hole in it, and then goes and kind of signals to the rest of you to go and follow him.
We follow.
And hold on, sorry, my Foundry is freezing for just a second.
No.
Trying to load something up.
It's Coco and the god messing with the settings.
Yeah, pretty much. Hold on, I have to render this out. Quick 2-minute break, I guess.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Right. So, as Silas goes and leads you more towards the apartment building, you do get a pretty good look at it itself. Is a majority of the wood of the wall is definitely shorn completely pointing outwards. It does appear that this was definitely not something that came from outside. This definitely came from inside of the building here. And as you go and make your way into the bottom floor of the building, you're more or less greeted with kind of just an empty hallway ending in a staircase. There's a couple of doors off to the side. You can tell that this is probably some form of like either apartment building or like lodging building. And as everybody gets in, and actually as you close the door behind you, Silas does kind of take a couple of steps forward and then turns around. And then addressing all of you... Sorry, hold on, I get something stuck in my throat.
You're good, take your time.
It's me, it's my cum. Sorry.
Shut
up!
Oh. That's not peachy at all.
We're not trying to practice.
Alright, well, there goes the YouTube demonetization.
I have
we
the
ever had
power
any-
of video editing.
True. But anyway, as Silas kind of turns around to you, there's probably a good 5-6 feet in between the two of you. And he... Huh?
Sorry.
Yes, of course. Gotta make sure nobody catches the fucking plague. He then turns around and kind of faces all of you. All right, so before we get going, I suppose there is some introduction of orders. All right. During this investigation, I will be utilizing a companion of mine that I suppose is best to get out of the way first. And he then goes and just claps both of his hands, and then immediately, almost coming out of the ether, you can see this long, kind of furred white creature that is about probably almost like 5 feet in length, and it kind of looks like this weird mix of creatures that out of anyone, the only one that would probably know what this is would be Mizu. And this is hold on, I am moving to show this. is this should be showing to everybody as this long, kind of semi-hairy creature almost comes out of the ether behind him with these two long bleached bone horns sticking out of the back of its head. As stated prior, it's about like 5 feet in length, and it's got 4 fairly short legs, but it doesn't actually land on the ground. It kind of hovers in the air, almost kind of like a floating snake. And he kind of turns to his companion there and kind of pats its head a little bit. This is my Drake companion. I'll be utilizing them to see if we can't sniff out our friend here, just in case there's any reason for him to be hiding. The rest of you, I would ask to go and simply inspect a majority of the actual address itself. I'll inspect part of his records and see if I can find out what was going on prior to this event, and hopefully we should be able to figure something out between all of us. And then, I guess following that, he kind of points over towards the stairs, and you can see the Drake move up the, kind of just float up the stairs. Like, it doesn't necessarily fly, but it kind of floats like maybe a foot or two off of the ground, wherever it is. And it just kind of winds its way up the staircase ahead of you all. So, before we progress, is there any questions that any of you might have?
What the hell is that thing?
What?
I was waiting for it.
What did he say?
What the hell is that thing?
Oh.
Yeah. He kind of turns over to you, Sigurdhur. That would be my Drake companion. I am a Drake Warden. It is effectively a draconic spirit that aids me in my adventures. It is, of course, bound to me, so long as you are allies of myself, you are allies of it.
Oh. I see.
This is somewhat familiar to you, Sigurdhur, is you know that druids often employ the use of natural spirits, and this definitely seems somewhat like that case. I mean, you do know that there you do know what a ranger is. They're usually kind of an intermediary between like a druid and a fighter, and they usually deal a lot with the natural world. But you've never seen one of this type. Is generally rangers that you know of are very much solo and self-sufficient. This one is very different. In fact, even knowing that this man is a ranger is kind of scratching at the back of your head, because he very much doesn't seem like a ranger. Because you're usually used to them going around having like bows and arrows or like short swords or basically any kind of like hunting implements is kind of what you're used to.
I'll keep that remark for myself though, because I don't want to. I don't want to look short, nearsighted or narrow-minded. So I'll just nod to his explanation, and in my typical I see behavior. I guess if it's allied to you, bound to you, I suppose, then I don't have any issue with it.
All right, well met then. So if there aren't any questions, I suppose we can move into the actual investigation here. Follow me. The doors have, well, in this case, become unlocked. And as you go and kind of follow him up the staircase, you can definitely tell that there is a very easily marked boundary where where the dust and debris kind of was blocked by a part of the stairwell as you go up. And with that, we will go and move to our map. So hopefully this should be all set. I'm going to activate this now.
Oh,
Okay,
Oh.
so yeah, as you reach the top of the staircase, and actually, hold on, I need to go and drag Silas in here. And then, oh, I didn't finish the token. Okay, well, you can see that, yeah, Silas and his Drake are both kind of up ahead of you. He kind of gestures into the large space in the double doors and kind of gestures to everything in there. So this is indeed where the explosion took place. We found at least the doors partially unlocked, which was somewhat odd for True Gust. And then, upon inspecting some of the information that he had on his desks in here, there was some form of triggered explosion. We're not sure if he set it himself or if there was possibly just some unstable components, which, I mean, Trugast was known to have dealt with on many occasions. However, I would assume that, given the violent nature of the explosion, that everything should have settled down by now. Despite that, still do be careful. And as you peer into the room, of course, the most striking thing was, of course, that both of the large wooden double doors directly in front of the stairwell were blown completely clean off of the hinges. There's not a single, like, shattering mark on the doors. They were just blown off of the hinges.
God.
Within the two doors is pretty much the very picture of destruction. You can see that there's rubble within. Rubble within is a mix of tools, paper, furniture, all wrenched from their proper resting places. Any debris that was not blasted out the sizable hole in the wall paints what could have probably been a much more grim picture. As you can see that there are, like, alchemical scalpels and writing tools that are firmly lodged into the walls, with shrapnel scars marking their brisk exit of the premises.
Lord.
Noting that, and again, going back to what Silas has already mentioned, noting that the alchemical tools that exploded appear to be no more, you believe that there shouldn't be any more danger, at the very least in the immediate area, lurking.
I imagine I don't immediately see blood anywhere here.
No, surprisingly enough, you do not see any blood, and in fact,
Gotcha.
actually, as you do remember that as Silas and Varys exited the window. In fact, actually, you know what, Wylle, roll me a history check.
Don't fuck up.
Oh, well, now you just had to say it.
All right. Well, that's pretty much exactly what you needed. So
Okay,
you
thank God.
would have actually recognized that, kind of putting that together, and the fact that there's no blood anywhere, and these two quite literally landed on their feet fine from the second story, you would kind of immediately realize it's like, oh, they're both adventurers, and one of them is a ranger. You're not sure what Varys is quite yet, but you realize that they probably used Featherfall. It's a pretty simple first level spell, and that would have definitely allowed them to kind of right themselves as they flew out.
Yeah, they looked in
Regarding
pristine condition, so whatever threw them out wasn't too powerful. It was just...
Well, no, you did see that there was still, like, debris and dust and everything covering them. There's just no blood.
Yeah. Well, that's fucking weird. Okay,
Yeah, gee, I wonder what that's about.
I wonder.
I have to
Uh,
ask that. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But
Yeah.
But, I was waiting to. It sounded like you were about to say something. I was just gonna say that, yeah, generally, kind of as you look in, there is no blood anywhere. There's just lots of scorch marks, both on the kind of central table in the room, and also on a lot of other portions of the walls where you expect that either like a lamp or other kinds of like oil substances may have ignited. Luckily enough, there is no fire in here. It's just kind of very dusty and smoky.
Gotcha. Out of I am gonna try and see if I can find anything like of maybe of note in here. Anything that feels like could have potentially helped out with the explosion, because it seems like everything got pushed to the sides here.
Okay,
May-
yep. Roll me an investigation check.
Yes, sir.
May I detect magic in the meantime?
Yep.
12. It's not.
All right,
These are so average.
Yeah. So with a 12, you don't get a lot. I mean, you're familiar with alchemical works, generally the end products, but you don't know anything about how any of it works. The only thing that you are able to find is that there is a lamp over on the side that kind of strikes you as a little bit odd. Is being in the hallway, you would have obviously noted that there are no lamps in the hallway. Everything is lit using simple magical enchantments. It's not generally all that uncommon for places of slightly higher pricing, or for like apartments or lofts or anything of that of slightly higher pricing to have magical lighting, is it just means that there's no burning fumes and it's completely magical, so it's able to be easily turned on and off and it doesn't require fuel. So you know that that's kind of standard for this kind of a building, just from the gist that you got from like the hallway and everything. And it strikes you a little bit odd that there would be a lamp in here until you kind of realize that for the amount of liquid that is coming out of it, and that's of course this right here, you can tell that this lamp was kind of being used as impromptu storage, almost like the thing was basically entirely filled with it.
Gotcha.
You do see other alchemical kind of items around, like there's a mortar and pestle and a hammer and a set of tongs nearby, but there's no kinds of substances that would have indicated exactly what caused everything.
Gotcha. So apart from the lamp, no liquid.
Yes. And I would say that at this point, Mizu, there probably has been about 10 minutes. Silas has gone off into the rest of the building. And you can actually see that he actually goes, and both him and his Drake, they both go and open a door and... Oh, hold on. Stupid double doors. Is you can see that he does go and kind of goes into the rest of this building, and his Drake kind of follows him.
What do my magic eyes see, Blade?
So as you activate Detect Magic, there's not much at the moment, but you can kind of tell that it looks like there is traces of magic on both of the big stone kind of tables that are in here. Is it very much kind of... this almost looks like it's some kind of like stone, like not necessarily altar, but it's basically just a solid, very flat stone table. Like it has been hewn and ground down to almost a mirror finish or something, at the very least as much as you can with stone. And they don't necessarily seem that much worse for wear, but you do detect very slight traces of conjuration magic, transmutation magic, and a very slight hint of evocation, but it's not registering as if it was like a singular spell. You just get kind of traces of each of these schools of magic. So it does not appear to have been a spell. Lee?
I didn't realize I was muted. Okay, good to know. Good to know. All right. And there's nothing on it, right?
No, from what you can actually tell is actually this is yeah, considering you're not looking for something specific, I'll just use your passive investigation. Is you can kind of tell that this right here, this little bit that is still smoldering on the center wooden table, appears to have kind of been the center point, because everything else in the room is blasted away from this point. The only thing that still stands kind of in the center is the chandelier, which you assume must have fallen down after the explosion.
What's smoking in there except Mizu? I mean, she's right on top of the cloud, that's why.
Yeah. But you go and take a look at the little smoldering mass. It's mostly just ash and wood from the table itself, but you do occasionally find this little bit of green in there. You can't tell what it is, but it appears to be some kind of a rock.
I pick it up.
Oh.
Yeah, as you pick it up, it does actually register on your detect magic, which is the only reason why you kind of got a free pass, is because this would have stood out just very slightly. And it's giving off very slight what's the school? It's not transmutation. It's not that. It is it is very slight divination magic, which you were not getting on any of the other like tables and surfaces. Is you can kind of tell within the rubble that it looks like there was like glass beakers, possibly filled with some kind of liquids or substances or powders. And it appears that a majority of those have been completely shattered, and that is probably what ignited, considering you don't see any of it anywhere. There's just these tiny specks of green rock or something in the rubble that are more or less completely scorched. There's not a single one of them that is probably larger than like maybe a large grain of sand or like a grain of rice.
Okay, good to know. 1 second.
More than 1 second, Lee.
Sorry. Okay. I'll. Can I take it with me? Do I have something that I can like put it in? I guess a pouch or.
I mean, you have a bag, I believe.
I'll give it to Coco.
Okay, yeah. He just kind of scampers up. He kind of has a little bit of trouble holding it because it's a very fine piece of particulate matter, and his hands aren't really made for something that small. But he kind of tries his best and scampers off back on into your hood.
Okay, he's my pouch.
Yeah. So with that, you've been able to find that, yeah, of course, this is the center point of the explosion, but you still haven't really found exactly what else is really in here.
Anything you'd like to do, Siggy?
He's just standing there.
I don't really know what to look for, to be absolutely honest. I think I would like to collect the papers that are scattered across the floor.
Okay.
But I can't read them.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. There's not a lot of papers in here. As you can see that there's a small batch kind of around where the table fell over, and then you can tell there's another small batch over where Wylle and Mizu are. And as you kind of collect them, you obviously can't read them, but it does seem like there was some very well documented kind of processes in here.
If I give them to... Sorry. If I give them to either Wylle or Mizu, do you think they will be able to know if there is an information that will hint at what caused the explosion in the first place?
You don't really know. I mean, you know that they're both it seems like Mizu's fairly well learned, but Wylle, you're not entirely certain about, but I mean, that is definitely up to your own character.
I think he will give them to Mizu. She does look book smarty. So yeah, after gathering the papers that are scattered across the floor, he will make a nice, neat package out of them and hold them out to her, and say, I found these. I cannot read, but maybe it says what caused the explosion.
Mizu turns to him with a little bit of surprise on her expression and goes, "Wait, you can't read?"
I cannot.
Oh, sure, let me see. And then she takes the papers. What do I see?
Yeah, as you take the papers, I mean, it is all written out in common, and as you kind of rifle through them, a majority of them seem to be manifests of alchemical ingredients that were coming in. There's a majority of everything has like either notes scribbled on the lines below the inventory, possibly noting like reactions of certain ingredients and the processes to get them to hopefully kind of get working the way that the alchemist was intending. And it seems for the most part that it's still just kind of inventory and notes. You're not seeing anything particularly volatile in here, at the very least anything that you recognize. But it is at the very least giving you kind of an idea of that this guy had a significant amount of very different and varied ingredients that he was being shipped directly from the guild.
Okay. After basically skimming over them, Mizu turns to the other two and explains to them, "These seem to just be research papers. I don't think I've seen anything that could potentially lead to a clue that we're after."
Yeah, and it is at this point that you probably do kind of realize that this is probably about as much as you're really going to be able to get through it, because you have investigated the rubble. That is the most prominent area of rubble, and from there you get the feeling that you've kind of gleaned about as much as you can, considering the absolute destruction that happened in here. Is everything of note is either completely burned or just completely broken, or lodged in the walls, or even possibly blown out into the street, at which point any other papers that might have been there may have possibly even been blown into the wind. Yeah, and as you go up further is the doors off to your left here. You do notice that they do appear to be locked, but you do know that Silas also went into the doors off to your right, which you should be able to click on yourself.
I mean, since he's already going through it himself, I'll just have Mizu walk ahead.
Okay. So in front of you are another set of single doors this time, and as you go to try to enter into the door that is on your left, you do note that that is also locked. And then as you enter into the room onto your right, you appear to have entered into some form of storeroom. There are crates lining pretty much every singular side. There is a cabinet at the far end of the room, which is probably only maybe 40, 50 feet in length. And there's also a small workbench, a couple of barrels, and a small trough of water that appears to be sitting pretty calmly.
I'll check out the cabinet.
Okay. As you open up the cabinet, you are greeted to kind of unsurprisingly, a large array of alchemical tools to be able to kind of just do base alchemical work. You find like Erlenmeyer flasks, you find other glass bottles, you find extra mortars and pestles, you find other small sets of like scalpels and small hammers and tongs, other things to be able to hold items kind of securely. There's a sewing kit here or there. But other than that, not much of note.
Damn. All right. What about the workbench?
So the workbench is fairly interesting to you. Is you can see that there's this kind of reddish, kind of ruddy crystal that is sitting at the back of the desk next to a set of tongs and a hammer. And it appears that it looks like he was trying to kind of almost break off shards of it. Is you can see that there's papers on the desk that denote that it looks like he was noting that there was some kind of strange phenomenon with this specific crystal, and that he was trying to break off smaller chunks of it so that he would be able to perform different tests. And each one of the papers details a different alchemical process that he was intending to go through. Like he's talking about having one of them like submerged in water and then ignited, and then there's another one that he's looking to like process through electricity. There's another one that he is looking to go and submit to specific magics, but it is nothing necessarily of note. It just appears to be things that he was in the middle of kind of processing, and it looks like he may have sat down at some point.
He was. Sorry, you cut out. He was in the middle of.
It appears that he was in the middle of attempting some experiments, but it looks like he put everything down at some point and did not continue.
All right. I'll have Mizu scour through the room in the meantime, so Sigurdhur and Wylle can proceed with what they're doing while she's looking.
All right.
You wanna go, Siggy?
So, Blade, you said these doors and those doors are locked, right? No.
Only the doors on the left right now are locked. The one right down here, you did see Silas go into that room alongside his Drake companion, and they have not come out yet.
Alright, I'm gonna knock and ask him if he's alright, because it's weird to close the door behind him, I think.
Oh, yeah, as you actually go and knock on the door, you actually do the knock. Actually, you know what? Roll me a strength check.
Oh, please.
Or, well, athletics. No, just basic strength in this case, I think. Because it's not something necessarily voluntary.
Come on. Okay.
Yo.
Wait.
Okay. Yeah, so with that, you do knock on the doors, but you do actually notice that when you knock, there is a little bit of a give on them. They do not appear to be locked.
Okay.
You can kind of as you kind of knock, the door kind of swings back into closed place. You can assume that these doors appear to be kind of on self-closing hinges.
All right.
So you should be able to open the door by just clicking on the door icon.
Yep.
Yeah, and as you go in, you would actually see he would be.
Oh wow! What a
over
mess.
here. Huh?
What a mess.
Yeah, you can see in here that Silas is over at a desk inspecting some form of apparatus with a green crystal. He's kind of very much attempting to investigate it without necessarily really having trouble there, Wolf?
No, I'm having fun.
I wasn't sure if you were like trying to get into the room and were like stuck or something.
No, I would I would have let you know.
I was gonna say Wylle really just said door stuck.
Door stuck.
But you can see Silas kind of attempting to inspect some of the kind of apparatus at the far end of the room, and he is looking through a book on the on the side, but it appears that he is kind of busy with his own investigation.
What a mess. Sigurdhur is going to walk in and flip the carpet.
Yeah, as you check under the carpet, you just find more wood.
Nothing.
Nope, nothing aside from maybe just the occasional speck of dust.
And if I try to step on the wood across the floor, are there some places where it sounds more hollow than others?
Roll me a perception check.
Oh shit.
18.
Alright, yeah, as you are going through, you're paying very close attention to the sound of the floorboards, and it's especially easy because there's not really any speech or other sounds happening. And you're able to tell that it does appear to just be a very basic, solid floor.
Okay. So
Obviously,
no
there
double
are-
flooring.
Yeah, nothing hidden, it appears. I mean, you are on the second story, or on the second floor, so there is just a little bit of squeak and give here and there, but nothing that would belie like a hidden passage or anything.
Alright. Well, I leave you be. This is way too much written paper for me. Bye.
Yeah, and kind of as you are exiting, is you can hear Silas mention to you, "Don't worry, I'm very much in the same depth right now. I'm not made for this."
Gee, I wonder who would be.
Mm. But yeah, as you exit that room, there's not necessarily too much. You would have seen in the 2 rooms, or in the 3 rooms you've been in so far, that obviously True Gust was not in the room with the explosion. He was not in the study that Silas was in, and you did catch a glimpse of the room that Mizu was investigating. He was not there either.
Hey, do I have your authorization to burst the door open?
Is he asking why was he asking Silas?
Silas.
You can kind of hear. Hold on, you can hear Silas kind of walk out. You can hear the ceramics of his armored feet across the wood, and he kind of just holds the door open. Well, True Gust has to be here somewhere. He hasn't been seen in town anywhere near, and we are going to need him for the crossing, so we might as well. And as you are kind of looking towards the door, you see that he actually kind of gets up right next to the door next to you.
I never liked doors anyway.
Yeah, so
I know.
So he does go and kind of checks the door, and yeah, it is properly locked. And he kind of takes a small knife out of his pocket. It's very odd. It almost kind of looks like a blade that's made out of this like darkened green glass, and he's able to fit it in between the door, and he kind of runs it vertically down the length between the 2 doors, and eventually gets to about where the lock is, and you do hear a little clink. And he's like, "Yep, it is most certainly locked and not just stuck, so only one thing to do. We have to find the man." And you can see that he takes a bit of a step back, as if readying to barge it down.
Wow, it's just, oh boy, I guess we're doing this, and he's just gonna step back. Yeah, doesn't want to get caught in the crossfire, you know?
Yeah. So, Sigurdhur, are you going to assist in this?
Oh yeah.
Okay, we need an athletics check with advantage because Silas is helping you.
Thank you. Hey, I did ask. Huh, weird.
Oh, Oh,
All right, so
okay.
with an 18, you kind of take Silas's signal, and the two of you both go and just kind of shoulder check the door as both of the doors go and swing wide open.
Mizu runs out after hearing that. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was a large thud, and you can see that both Silas and Sigurdhur are kind of standing right in the doorway, and there's a couple of pieces of metal that appear to have flung out of the lock.
Wait. Let me
Oh.
do something.
Okay,
I'm
let me know.
curious. Oh yeah, okay. You just see Mizu peek out from the other door, and you just waves. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
Mizu just raises her eyebrows with wide eyes and asks, "Do I need to ask or?"
They just broke that doors. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and as the door does break down, you do actually see Silas go and point back to his Drake, and goes and points into the room, and you can immediately see it start kind of going around the room and like sniffing various things.
Sniff
And
snore.
eventually it kind of hovers above the bed and just kind of starts sniffing intently over there.
You know what? Coco joins.
Okay, hold on.
He sees the sniffing
Oh, there he
action
is.
and gets all excited, like, "Ooh, let me have some of that."
Let me configure ownership with this. Are you able to control Coco?
Oop.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I would say yes. So, yeah, from what you can see in front of you, it looks like this is a pretty standard. As you can already kind of tell, this looks like it's a bedroom of some sort. There's about a roof height, like dresser cabinet, or not cabinet, but like dresser and closet combo that is sitting at the foot of the bed, and there appears to be a decently sized double bed out in the back alongside like a wash basin and a small heating element over on the side. Doesn't seem to be too much in here. This seems to be just kind of a very basic, very Spartan kind of lodging. And immediately as all of that is going on, you can see that the Drake kind of does finish kind of sniffing everything, and then does eventually go back to Silas, and the two of them, it appears that there's some kind of communication going on, because you can see Silas kind of keeps making gestures every once in a while as if he's being presented with new information, but he's not necessarily saying anything.
They're just kind of eyes locked on to each other.
Kind of, yeah.
Brain transmission.
It's their way
Yes.
of communicating. I'll take care of the next one.
Can Coco look under the bed?
Yep. Yeah, you do look under the bed, and you do actually go and actually, hold on. No, you wouldn't find it here. Hold on. You don't find anything specifically. There's just a little bit of dust that's everywhere, but you do notice that Coco does kind of catch on to something, and you assume it's probably the same scent as whatever the Drake picked up, and you can see him immediately kind of start sniffing in the air. He goes back into the hallway and then immediately starts going into this room over here, and then goes right over to this book right here and just kind of keeps sniffing at it and paws at it.
Mizu takes a look.
So what you can see is it looks like there is a book that is situated on the kind of plinth right there. And immediately you can tell, based on how the document is kind of put together, you can immediately tell that it looks like this is some kind of a journal. And immediately taking that up, I'm going to go and make this available to you, Mizu. This should be available in the Journals tab. It appears that you have found Roderick Truegust's journal.
Oh, good job.
Ooh, boy. Should I read it out loud for everyone?
Yes.
Yes, especially the exciting bits.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be kind of funny if everyone came into the room and she just starts reading out loud like it's a kindergarten.
Diary.
Yeah. Dear
I
diary.
I mean, hey, you never know.
I mean, if people want to come in here, then...
I'm still in the earshot distance, am I not?
Yeah, I would say at this point, Sigurdhur, you have kind of checked the door itself over where you are, and yeah, it is firmly locked, just like the other one.
I kind of want to break it down, but I kind of also want to listen to Mizu. So
All right.
I'll just be on standby and listen to her from a distance.
Okay. She skims through the papers and then raises her head and looks over. I guess the doors are still open?
Yeah, all of the doors are pretty much being held open at some point. It looks like when Silas exited the room that you are currently in, he there's a little like stop that you can kind of like flip down on the bottom of the door.
Door
And
stopper.
it appears that he has basically made them hold themselves open.
All right. Yeah, she raises her head and goes, I believe I found his journal over here. I can read it out loud while everyone's still looking.
Yes, that might be best. And Silas actually will go and actually join you in that room. And kind of as you are looking at that, he is going to start kind of taking out some of the scrolls in here and start taking a look at them. And his Drake is going to then goes and situates itself in front of the door over here.
All right. All right. Day 559. For all of the benefits of guild work, I find myself questioning my path of focus lately. I fully understand this is the project I myself chose to head, but truth be told, I find myself potential leads dwindling the more and more shipments the guild sent me. The bleak truth is that we're still very much at the whims of the border as we were near a year and a half ago when it first opened. And today's regions. This is striked out, it seems. Clear breath, dark eye, far flame oil, journeyman's friend, panther tears. Then she flips to the other page. Day 560. Yes, yesterday's shipment failed to provide any viable leads, but I've still okay, sorry. Yesterday's shipment failed to provide any viable leads, but I've still a few tricks left up my sleeve and avenues I'd like to explore before I begin considering my resignation. I'd be lying if I said I didn't harbor doubts about the feasibility of this project. We barely understand the nature of the border, which has stood firm for millennia, possibly even beyond written history. We may simply at the whims of forces we cannot control, much like the very storms that rage across both land and sea alike. Today's regions, also in striked out text, Fleetfoot, Free Glide, Hawk's Ointment? Bruh, sorry, I was struggling there.
It's fine. Typos being what they will.
Mm-hmm. Alright.
I wrote this at like midnight last night.
That's fine. Alright, next, she flips over to the next page. Day 561. On a whim, I contacted some colleagues at the academy back home for some possible ideas, and unfortunately, it seems to be much as I expected. They say it's lonely at the top, but I find it only infuriating if anything. The fact none of them find themselves entranced with the possibilities of discerning the nature of the border astonishes me. Even as maddening as it is, I find myself driven to produce some form of tangible results soon. I will not allow geography to dominate the insurmountable of human will. Today's regions. Spelunker's Oil, Shedden, Zeph's blood. And at this point, you assume every time she reads out the regions that they're always striked out, since she left it out this time. She flips over to the next page. Day 562. Progress has been moving slowly, but finally assuredly. Despite this, sleep has been escaping me lately, it seems. Though rest grips me at the usual hours, I find myself fraying at the oddest times during experiments. I'm so close to a breakthrough, I can feel it mere inches in front of my face. There's a fundamental truth of this world that is awaiting those bold enough to reach out and grasp them. Today's regions, Traveler's Solace, Swift Stride Caps. She flips to the next page. Day 563. Finally, I've logged marked progress for the first time in 10 moons. The shard from the grove appears to be resonating properly, if only for a sparse instant at a time. While ecstatic to finally have vindication, I cannot seem to find my notes on the early processes to get the shard working. Given the leap of progress made, I must have misplaced them in my study somewhere. Even should they fail to show up, I'm sure I can replicate the process. Today's regions. Underlined. Grove Shard. She flips to the next page. Day 564. The handwriting of this document is somewhat more scrawled and messy than prior entries, so it took Mizu a bit to read it out loud. So there was a very noticeable pause in the beginning. The notes are most assuredly gone. I've reviewed every scrap of parchment I have in my possession, and nothing denoting the shard's manufacture. I know for certain I know how to make more of the shards for the expedition, but my mind is slow to recall it even at the best of times. I must be getting more exhausted than I thought. The guild is keen to see the outcome of my research, so I have arranged for a few representatives to stop by in a few days. The next expeditionary cell is readying to make the crossing. I need to ensure everything is ready before they arrive. Should I fail, I may not have another chance to prove my work of these last long years. She flips to the next page. The handwriting is almost illegible now, with broad scratches making up most of the pen strokes here and there. And this time the pause is almost lasting a minute, really. Day 565. Oh my god, did you hear that?
No.
My parents were really loud, so I wasn't sure. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Day 565. The exhaustion refuses to abate to my increasing will. The shards are progressing, but for the life of me, I cannot recall my process. It's as if routine has become a subconscious process of my mind, and I become a man possessed. The results are absolutely what is needed, but I cannot say I am not unperturbed. What was
Not nice.
Yeah, the last page. She flips to the very last page. And it says, it's really hard to read because what was one mostly legible has descended into chicken scratch and sparse symbols in multiple tongues. Day 566. Truth? I see it. Grove Shard. Godling stands? Behind sealed eye, he Titans trod in the face of she. Have I done it?
Yeah, and it is at this point that you go and kind of flip through the remaining pages of the journal, and the rest of it is just completely blank. There's nothing else after that. And it is...
Actually, I have comprehend languages because some of it are apparently multiple tongues.
Yeah, is let me go and pull this up. Sorry, I forgot that you had that. Is that a ritual?
Yes, I feel like at this point, after finishing reading out whatever she could decipher, she would try to cast Comprehend Languages as a ritual.
Okay, yeah. Let me just quickly write this out particularly. I'm going to go and put this into your personal private session channel, just so that you can go and get this.
Mizu pauses for a moment, and with the way her eyes start glowing while she's breathing some words out or chant, it seems that she's using a spell of hers, Comprehend Languages. After a while of silence, she speaks up again. I think I managed to. How do you say it? Wait, 1 second. I think I managed to make this legible now. I'll read it out loud. Truth has finally opened my eyes. I see clear as day now. The growth shard is the key. It calls to the godlings dancing among the mists where the titans trod within. The world is ignorant in the face of her might. She's one of all any many. Have I finally done it? Have I found the way? And this seems to be it.
Yeah, as you kind of finish that, you do turn and notice that Silas has actually finished going through whatever scrolls he was going through in the 10 minutes that it took to cast the ritual for Comprehend Languages. And you can see that he's got kind of his finger to the bottom of his chin. He's in kind of deep contemplation. And then as he kind of stops contemplating, he does go and actually goes kind of right by you, and he goes and actually grabs the green shard that is on the table currently. So you can see that there is one large green shard about maybe like the size of the palm of your hand, and there appears to be another kind of mass of something of the same color in the mortar and pestle there. But you can see that he goes and takes the green shard and deposits it into a bag, and then you can see that he actually kind of extends a hand your way, and he just kind of reaches towards the journal. May I collect that? This is definitely going to need to be evidence.
She hands it over.
All right. So as you hand that over, he does then go and kind of pick that up, and he does deposit into the same bag as the shard, and puts it into a small section in his scarf, kind of close to his neck, and he then very slowly makes his way over to another set of documents. He goes and picks up another booklet right here, which you can probably see from there. It looks like it's another journal, much the same size to the one that he just picked up, or the one that you just handed to him. He goes and picks that up as well, and then makes his way out the door over to the rest of the group. And he then kind of moves in between both you and the Drake while, and then goes over to the Drake. The Drake looks up at him, and you can tell that there is some kind of immediate understanding between the two of them. And then immediately the Drake goes and kind of pulls itself around his back, getting out of the way, and Silas goes to inspect the door over here.
Coco skedaddles up Wild's code.
Yeah.
Yep, it's It appears this is definitely the private study. It's the only place left he could be. All right. And kind of noting that there's really only... He kind of looks over to the side to you, Sigurdhur, and then kind of realizes that there's only enough space for one of them. So you can see him kind of back up just a little bit, and he just delivers one singular solid kick to the door. Jesus,
I
with a
will let you do
21.
that.
And as he does that, you see the door slam open, and
Uh-oh.
immediately you can see an entire room filled with books pretty much everywhere.
Oh,
Immediately on the front of the... And then immediately as you open the door of the private library, you are greeted with the sight of a collapsed human man sprawled over in front of a carpet, with several books spilled from his hands, likely as he fell. Sure enough, this is probably Roderick Truegust.
I'm just, well, just kind of like, not books it, but he kind of hurriedly goes towards him, and I just want to check his pulse.
Alright, yep, go in and roll me a medicine check.
Oh god. Come on!
With a 7, you're not really able to check too much. You are able to find out that he is indeed breathing, but it's fairly shallow and strained, and his skin is quite cold. It appears that some form of malaise must have taken him, because this is definitely not normal exhaustion.
Yeah. I'm just gonna immediately turn to Silas and just go, he's at least breathing.
Yeah, Silas kind of goes and steps over him as well, and kind of checks his pulse. It would appear so. What did you get yourself into this time, Truegust? And he starts taking a look around. He goes and picks up both of the books that are in front of Roderick and kind of reads them, and there isn't much. He kind of starts going through those and flipping through the pages. Mizu, at a glance, you can tell that it looks like this is different from the other... From the journals, these appear to be books that are actually about, like, natural history and weather phenomenon. It's not necessarily anything that you think would probably provide any context to what you've got going on, but it's at the very least... It at the very least makes sense.
Also, Wylle just at some point just like put his hand over his shoulder and just started absentmindedly scratching Coco.
Squeaky noise.
Eep, 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 eep. But
Wylle is the father who was like, we don't want a dog. I don't want a dog. And he starts growing fond of the dog.
Yeah, like he doesn't even look at Coco or anything. Like he's still looking at Silas investigating the man, and his arm just like subconsciously starts scratching Coco.
Yeah, you can tell that Silas isn't necessarily investigating Roderick himself, but more what he was doing at the time.
Gotcha.
And you can tell that he is very intentionally not disturbing Roderick at all.
Gotcha.
You can probably assume just because he doesn't want to make anything worse by accident.
Yeah. You seem oddly calm about. How often does this happen?
I would think that out of all of us, Mr. Welleria, that you would be well accustomed to the odd circumstances we often find ourselves in. While Roderick was not necessarily an adventurer himself, he did work for the guild, and oddities like this are not necessarily uncommon. While he is alive, we'll go and signal for a cleric. And it is actually at that moment, Sigurdhur, that you do actually see the Drake go and zoom right past the door and out of sight again.
There was a jump scare, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, me too. I want to peek out the door and see where it's gone.
Yeah, you can see that it is complete. It looks like it went right down the hallway, and it is completely gone now.
Huh. That's weird.
Yeah, you assume it probably went back down the stairwell and outside.
That's strange.
Sigurdhur
Okay.
is just standing there menacingly.
This guy's a fucking lunatic. I don't even understand how he's not in an isolation place now.
Wait, sorry, who's?
Who are you talking about?
Your alchemist friend. His writings make no sense.
Yes, I mean,
Oh.
given his position as a guild alchemist, he was always known to be somewhat eccentric in terms of what he was usually handling at a time. But this is strange even for him. Something is definitely going on here, and it would behoove us to find out what exactly, lest the same happen to other people around here. Granted, we do have his research now. We could make the crossing over time, mostly because I severely doubt that whatever has taken a hold of him will release him by the time of tonight. And he kind of frustratedly kind of puts the books down, kind of close to where they were, again being very careful not to disturb Roderick. And he begins looking around at the other portions of the room here.
Yeah.
I look at the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, a majority of the books in here are pretty standard. You can see some of them that are about the natural history of Belmare, about different types of geography that are active in certain areas. You can see tomes denoting specific alchemical lists and what things do. But other than that, you're not really finding anything super indicative of what could have happened.
Do I possibly find anything about Weave? Or like the cursed continent, at least?
Roll me an investigation check.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Oh.
Okay. So, going through a majority of the books, you do eventually find a book that is titled The Cursed Continent. And it does give a brief overview of different things that had been tried with the continent of Aresh itself. These books were obviously written quite some time ago, because it does still describe Aresh as a supercontinent, and it has now been described as just a continent itself because it is effectively split in half now. And a majority of it is just tales of different things that have happened around the border of Aresh. It's mostly the appearance of those Lapine people that have been mentioned here or there. You're still not entirely certain about them. It does mention that they are similar to rabbits in a way, but it doesn't give you any other information beyond that. It simply states that anytime anybody is found coming out of the mists, they have no memory of what happened within, and oftentimes they appear very far away from where they went in. Like, usually it's not unheard of for there to be somebody that shows up in Belmare from Wuyan, which is, of course, an entire continent away from here.
Gotcha.
But that is kind of all that you're really able to find. A lot of it is kind of information you already know, but it is kind of confirmation of what he was kind of looking into and kind of what is the common understanding of Aresh.
Alright, thanks for indulging me.
Yeah. And Wylle?
I was curious to see if I could find pretty much anything that looked out of place, but considering there's just a library up, I was like, I don't think much would be of interest here. that I could figure out at the very least.
I mean, roll me an investigation check.
Don't fuck it up.
You just had to say it, didn't you?
Okay, 18. So, as you are kind of glancing about the room, I mean, you're not that inexperienced when it comes to oddities like this.
Mhm.
And you've certainly also heard your own share of tales about libraries, and how in almost every tale that involves a library, there is some kind of a secret passage. It's just kind of a trope that bards love to portray in stories.
Yeah.
So you immediately start kind of looking around, and you do notice that the library itself is arranged in a very particular pattern,
Oh.
especially in terms of how the bookcases
Mhm.
are arranged, and that does kind of pique you a little bit as strange.
Yeah, because the weirdest part to me was the fact that the top here is completely empty, but every other place is just completely filled.
All right.
Oh, I forgot Coco was on me. I'll stay.
Yeah, Coco will just be there. He kind of goes off and decides he wants to sit on the chair.
He's
sits
the big
on
man
it.
now.
Sits on it like this one gif I keep posting.
The otter gif, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the secret passage, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, it's such like a fun yet like overused trope, but it's like sometimes it's just like, man, kind of want to look for one anyway.
All right, so what do you do?
Well, I first of all, I will check the walls here to see if there's actually like anything at all, like just a small part that I can press on, or somehow an invisible door, or if there's scratches on the floor or whatever.
Yeah, roll me another investigation check.
Oh god.
All right.
No.
10 is
Man.
just enough to get some information. As I always like to do tiered like rewards for this stuff. Like, if you don't get exactly the thing, you might get just a little bit less, and if you score well, you might get more. So, immediately kind of checking a lot of this, you're very well versed in a lot of those stories, and you do actually see some scratch marks on the floor, kind of extending north and south over here.
Oh.
Kind of right in front of you.
Gotcha. In that case, can I? Now I'm curious. Now I want to investigate the books here, see if there's and like a specific book that is thicker or slightly pushed out or in compared to the others.
You go and start kind of tugging on each one of the books, and a majority of them are actual physical books. There's none of them that necessarily stand out.
Gotcha.
It just appears that it is just a very mundane bookcase.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I'm gonna turn to Silas. Hey, you might come in here real quick. I might be onto something. Emphasis on the might. Am I going crazy, or do you see marks that goes past the wall right here?
Yeah, he goes and he gingerly steps over Silas and goes to inspect the area, and he's like, yes, there are marks here. And nothing on the bookcase itself?
Couldn't find anything when it comes to the books themselves. Everything they're just books.
Alright. And he kind of goes and places a hand on the bookshelf and kind of pushes it with a little bit of force, and you do actually see a little bit of give. It looks like it's not locked to a wall or anything. And then, immediately he's going to kind of go and kind of just kind of wave his hand back to just kind of ask you to back up, kind of.
Yeah.
And then kind of goes and puts his hand over on the interior part of this part of the shelf, And then you can see him kind of angle his feet so that he kind of has leverage as he then goes and
Hey!
moves aside.
I don't have any idea of what happened because I was
You
on my
can-
way to
you
the
can-
room.
You can probably
Yeah.
hear it.
You would have heard it. It was a fairly audible moving. As you could hear like wood creaking and grinding as it was like rubbing up against itself.
Yeah,
What is it? Noise of men struggling? I'm into it. Hello?
While just like after seeing it, it's like, I'm so glad you're here. I would not have been able to push that. Good lord.
Yes, I'm sure your friend could have simply done the same.
Yeah. I wasn't sure where he was, but I would have gone to get him. But thank you nonetheless.
About the man on the floor, Mizu gestures to him. Is it possible to maybe also situate him onto the, on a more comfortable surface? I feel kind of bad just leaving him on there.
We could, however, moving him might cause more harm. We have no idea what is going on with him. Best to wait until a cleric arrives and we can possibly figure out what's going on. We also don't know if there's anything immediately contagious with what's going on with him.
All right, understood.
And as Silas goes and kind of moves up to the door and kind of starts taking a look at it, you can see him kind of press against the door a little bit, and you can see that there's a little bit of a give, but you do hear a kind of click of a lock rattling in its strike plate. And you can visibly tell that this door is much older than any of the other doors that you have been able to see, and it does appear to be locked as well. And then
I'm curious. Can I immediately see a set of keys on his belt?
Go and make a perception check.
Come on. Oh.
All right.
Yeah, let's go.
So you kind of take a look at him, careful to heed Silas's words to not disturb him too much. But then your eyes immediately hone in on a small, almost kind of finger-sized indent that is on one of his pockets, as he kind of has these two pockets on the front of his work shirt that just happen to be kind of sticking out the side. And as you kind of like dip your finger into one of those pockets, you do pull out a small key. However, what seems very odd is that the key is incredibly dusty, and it appears to be covered in cobwebs as well. You're able to figure out, it seems like you're able to kind of put two and two together. This may have been a recent discovery by him as well.
Yeah, okay, so it might not be his key. I'm still gonna try it. I'm gonna try it just for the sake of it.
And
does it even fit?
Yeah, as you go and kind of brush it off, sure enough, the door unlocks. And immediately as you open the door, there is a spray of dust and cobwebs and especially chilling cold air. And as you open up the door, you are greeted with a dilapidated area that has like broken floorboards. There is probably a good half an inch of dust and cobwebs covering the entirety of the room. But what strikes you most odd is that there's a rather large formation on the floor in the shape of a gigantic black eye with a cross going through the pupil. And another hand-sized black crystal, very similar to the ones that you saw, Mizu.
I'm just kind of like standing in front of the door with my arms crossed, like, this doesn't look good.
Throw Coco in.
No,
I was gonna say, wait, where
Uh,
did he go?
he's on me.
Oh, I
He,
can't see him.
he ran back to me after I
Yeah.
after I moved. I will go in very
Yeah.
cautiously, but I will go in because I am curious.
Yeah, Silas goes in as well and kind of moves off to the side. And he kind of you can see him take out the green crystal shard that he picked up from the study. And then he kind of holds it up and looks at the other crystal right over here, and sure enough, they're right about around the same size.
Gotcha.
Not to mention, this crystal does look to be about the newest thing in the room.
Well, this looks foreboding.
Hell.
Yeah, and as you are kind of inspecting this, Wylle, I would like you to roll me a what would this be? This would be a Constitution saving throw.
Oh, I was waiting for it.
Hell yeah.
Oh
Hell
my
yeah.
God. I stayed on the 2 for like half a second and my heart dropped.
So as you are kind of investigating this room, you can feel a chill run down your spine. It is quite spooky, but at the same time, you do also kind of realize that this isn't just spookiness. There's something much more to this.
Before anyone else follows him in, he's just gonna like put his hand up because he's hearing Sigurdhur coming in. Let's be honest, Sigurdhur's not stealthy at all. And he's just gonna tell him, before you come in, you might need to wait a little bit. I don't think whatever is in this room is healthy for anyone.
Yeah, and it is at this instant that you say that yeah, and as you kind of say that, while you can see Silas actually perk up and actually kind of get at a ready